I'm Emily Chancellor. I'm in our Public Information Office and will help guide us through this meeting. I want to ask first Jacqueline to make an announcement about Spanish interpretation for the meeting.
Buenas noches a todos. Quería dejarles saber que tenemos interpretación en español disponible. Para seleccionar español tiene que ir al icono donde dice interpretación abajo y hay un icono del globo. Si selecciona ahí el español, puede escuchar esta junta en español. Gracias.
Thank you, Jacqueline. We appreciate your help tonight. So tonight we're going to start out with some meeting logistics to let you know how you can engage with the meeting. Our team is prepared to give some updates. I want to remind everyone that we had a community meeting in December of last year, and tonight we're really following up on the items that we discussed in that meeting. We'll be providing some updates on our progress and let you know what's coming up. And then we will have a time for question and answer if there's anyone that would like to ask questions. Lydia, will you give us an overview of the meeting logistics and how to use Zoom to engage with us during the meeting?
Yes. So for everyone that is joining us on a laptop or a tablet, you should be able to scroll down to the bottom of your Zoom toolbar, and there's that chat button. You can see a picture of it there. And the chat button is how you can interact with the panelists during the presentation. And there's a separate button just to the left of that for your Q&A, and that's where you can submit official questions that we will cover during the set aside Q&A time. Now, if you're calling in on a cell phone and you want to raise your hand to ask a question and let me know to unmute you, you can on your phone dial *9. That'll let me know you have a question, and then *6 will unmute yourself. And also, if you're joining on a computer and you just simply don't want to type in your question and you want to speak it out loud, you can click the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom toolbar, and I will unmute you and let you ask your question. And also, I'm here for any technical difficulties, things that come up for you, so you can always type in the chat and ask me a question anytime. And I believe that's it.
Thanks, Lydia. Appreciate your help. We couldn't do these meetings without you. Well, now we'll get into our project updates, and I'll hand things over to Kevin Kohler.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kevin Kohler. I'm the Division Manager for Collection Systems Engineering. My team and I support the wastewater pipe that goes throughout the city of Austin. It's about 2,950 miles, and we provide the engineering support for that wastewater pipe. You'll hear later in the presentation from Charles Solero. He's the division manager for facilities engineering, which supports the wastewater treatment plant. So next slide, please. So we wanted to give everyone an update since our last meeting of some items that we talked about that we were going to do and what we've completed. And the first item that we did is we've completed cleaning and televising of the wastewater lines in the neighborhood. This is part of our routine preventative maintenance that we do throughout the entire city on a regular cycle. And the photo that's down sort of on the left of your screen shows a picture of a pipe that's been cleaned. It's kind of like we give the pipe a car wash. And so we clean the inside of the pipe, remove any debris or grease or anything that collects in the pipe. And we did that in the neighborhood. We started that this spring and completed that a couple months ago. So the next thing that we also did is we cleaned the siphons. We completed that last summer, and we're going to do another cleaning this summer. And it's just routine maintenance that we do on the collection system to make sure that it continues to function and work as it's intended. I think the last sort of completed item, and we mentioned this in the last community meeting, but we did complete smoke testing. There are two photos on the bottom of the page that show smoke that comes out. It's a low-grade smoke, non-toxic, that we put, we blow into the pipes, and if there's a hole or a break or anything like that, the smoke will come to the surface. And so we've completed that. We have also completed the city repairs on any part of the city collection system where we found any breaks. And we did have a couple of private property owners where we identified some defects in private plumbing, and we sent those letters to the community members. So we sent that out. If there are any questions about any private plumbing issues, Austin Water is here to help, and we can talk you through that process. Next slide, please. The other big item that we did is we installed a temporary vapor unit at the Walnut Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant. We started that in December of last year, and we performed our initial testing in the spring of this year. What that unit does, you can see some pictures down at the bottom. It's kind of like a giant fan that pulls the air out of the wastewater pipe. So it pulls the air out. The box is an area that treats the air, so it cleans the odors from the air. And we did that. We have completed our initial testing, and we're planning to continue additional testing and evaluation this summer and fall. So this is a temporary unit. We do a lot of these pilot projects just to see the kind of response from the collection system, and we will continue to evaluate that and look at potential long-term improvements based on the results of this pilot. Next slide. So what our sort of next steps are is that we're going to continue to monitor the neighborhood and collection system and other odor sources that are potentially in the neighborhood. We have a slide, I think, at the end where we mention if you do smell odors in the neighborhood to call our Austin Water Dispatch. We continue to log and investigate every odor complaint that occurs. And so we're going to continue to do that. And the other big thing that we've got ready, and we've got a guest speaker to talk about that, is that we've got, we're calling it the Greater Walnut Wastewater Treatment Plant and Collection System Study. And so that we'll talk about in a minute or two, but that's a comprehensive look at the odor sources in and around the neighborhood from not only the collection system, but also the treatment plant and other sources of maybe industrial users or industrial compounds in the neighborhood. So with that, you'll go to next slide, please, Emily. This is the intro to that. We've got Dr. Rodrigo Gonzalez Abraham on. Next slide, please. And he works for a consultant, which is Jacobs Engineering. And I'm going to hand it over to him to kind of give an overview of the study that we're going to do. And this will be sort of an independent review by an outside firm that's going to look at all of the sources and areas around Walnut Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant and the collection system for odor and make recommendations for us what to do. So with that, Rodrigo, I'll hand it over to you, please.
Thank you, Kevin. Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Rodrigo Gonzalez Abraham, and I'm a Jacobs technologist. And I'm going to talk to you about the Greater Walnut Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant odor study. Next one, please. What are the goals of the project? There are three main goals. First, to measure the odors from possible sources, either at the Walnut Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant or other facilities that are not non-city operated. We're going to evaluate the impacts of other sources on the community, and we're going to evaluate possible solutions. We're going to communicate progress and results to stakeholders and the community. Next slide, please. So how are the goals of the project going to be accomplished? The first goal, well, we're going to measure odors from possible sources in the facility. These are just examples of previous projects. As Kevin mentioned, this project is just starting. So this is not happening at this facility. These are examples of measurements that happen at other facilities that had similar issues. We measure the water that is being treated, or leaks and valves throughout the facility, or in release valves, either throughout the pipes in the facilities or in other reactors, like you see on the right side, the anaerobic reactor. Next one. Not only are we going to measure at the source, but we're also going to monitor odors throughout the community. What you see here on the left that look like a very long snout is the nasal ranger that is used to measure directly. These are called olfactometers, and we measure directly around the facility or within the facility, outside and inside of the facility. Now, any type of community involvement will be discussed in later meetings. Next one, please. Also, the impact is not only measured, but it's also simulated with computer and mathematical models. What we measure at the facility, at the source directly, using wind speed and wind direction, we will simulate where the impacts happen. Again, like with the measurements, this image that you see here is from previous projects for another city. So this impact has nothing to do with the Walnut Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant facility. But what you can see here is how this facility impacted in terms of odor and what sources impacted and where those impacts happen. Then you calibrate this model with monitoring, as you can see in those green spots. So you put monitors, you measure, and then you also model, and you see what the impact around the facility is from the odor that comes from the sources that you monitor at the beginning. Next one, please. Then we're going to communicate those results. Well, at least we're going to have 3 public meetings throughout the project, at the beginning, in the middle, and almost at the end, but not at the end. Then we're going to have effective and frequent communication with the community and the stakeholders to provide those ways to receive comments via surveys. We're also going to provide training material regarding odors, so the community can tell us if it smells like rotten egg, where is that coming from? If it's a fishy smell, where is that coming from? If it's a bubble gum, it's probably at the bottom of your shoe. I'm just kidding. But we're gonna train the community to do it and to identify those odors. We're gonna present the results, and we're going to co-develop practical solutions. Next one, please. This is the approximate schedule. The first public meeting will happen in early fall of this year. We're gonna start the sampling and initial modeling around the same time. And then once we have the sampling and initial modeling, and we have some updates to give, then we're going to have the public meeting number 2, which is going to happen in March of 2022. We're going to have additional sampling and modeling for non-city operated sources, and that will happen in winter and spring in 2022. And then we're going to present results at the end of summer 2022. Next one, please. So with this in mind, we're going to develop effective solutions to address community expectations. We're going to go beyond business as usual to develop sustainable solutions with effective communication with the community, taking the community as partner in subject matters, because you know where this smells, and we want to hear from you. We're going to design out the risk rather than mitigating it. That means preventing it. We're going to identify what is possible throughout this methodology. And like I said earlier, the project is just starting, so there is lots more to come. Next, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we'll hand it over to Charles to give us some updates on our capital improvement projects.
Thank you, Emily and Rodrigo. My name is Charles Solara. I'm a division manager of facility engineering. My group facilitates the capital improvement projects, what we usually like to call inside the fence, the vertical constructions, the water plants, the lift stations, and things of that nature, is what my group is charged with. The odor control facility does follow as part of one of our capital improvement projects that we're following. The Crosstown Tunnel, as you all know, collects wastewater from customers in Northwest, Central, and East Austin and transports it to the Walnut Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant. As the water moves through the tunnel, so does the air move through the tunnel, and sometimes that air becomes pressurized, and when it leaves the tunnel, it can be odorous. So the Crosstown Tunnel facility that we're proposing will treat this odorous air in a one location. The additional benefit of that is also that it will kind of help with the corrosive environment in the tunnel and will prolong the life of the tunnel. You may have seen a recent fan test structure out there. We did that back in February. The fan test shows that the odor control facility will address the odors concerns to the length of the 11-mile tunnel. The process there, the equipment that we're trying to use was called a biotrickling filter, and it's a natural filter from natural biological process treatment. And a fan will take the air out of the tunnel, and therefore basically causing more of a negative pressure in the tunnel, meaning that air won't escape the tunnel, and it will be treated naturally through the biological filters, and then will be dispersed into the atmosphere. This project has completed preliminary engineering. We're about to start the final design, and I have a couple additional slides to show that. And this is a little over a $6 million project. Next slide, please. On this slide, you can see the location right there to the right where it says FM 969. You see a little square, red square, and that's the proposed odor control site. For those who know the location, it's actually on the west side of the creek, Walnut Creek. Next slide, please. So the picture on the right is a conceptual layout that we would assume the approximate sizes. We still need to go through final design, so it's subject to change and probably will change. And so that's kind of the size of the unit. To the right is a conceptual order string rendering of what this unit will look like. Again, it's just a conceptual order rendering in a situation. It's not a specific order rendering on the site that I'm showing to the left. But you can see they're kind of like metal boxes. They're kind of large container style boxes that the natural filter media will be contained, and air will be blown through those metal boxes. And then you can see the chimneys dispersing the air into the atmosphere. Next slide, please. The Greater Central Odor Control Project is a similar project to the Crosstown Odor Control Project. This project is completing preliminary engineering. The completed fan test in February 2nd is being incorporated into the preliminary engineering report. That report will be released, and the recommendations will be technical evaluations of where additional odor control units would provide the best mitigating impacts for any kind of odor that perhaps is leaving the Walnut and Little Walnut interceptors. So this project here is basically looking at the pipes that are kind of headed maybe a little bit northwest of the plant, kind of up through the Harvey Pinnock golf course area and up through 183 and 290 interchange through that area, where the Crosstown tunnel, as the name notes, it's kind of crosstown. So it's more to the west. So as it moves across the city. So just the same concept, just different location on some different gravity pipelines. This project is scheduled to be completed in 24-25 range. And again, it's about a $6 million project as well. Next slide, please. We wanted to highlight one of the projects that we had talked about in the past that's actually at Walnut Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant, which we call the secondary improvements. It's about a $24 million project, and it's about 60% complete. Parts of the plant are 40 years plus years old, and this project is starting to replace some of that equipment. To the left side, you see the aeration improvements. That is replacing the disc filter, the discs, the air discs down at the bottom of the basin, and that provides this fine bubbles that go through the air. And the aeration basin treats the incoming organic material. And then as that material is also suspended in the water through the air, it's all constantly mixed. After a set time of that it's in the basin, call it hydraulic time, that the amount of the water stays in the basin, it will be discharged into the next component to the right there called the clarifier. And the clarifier here settles the water to a very still state, and the processed organic material will fall to the bottom. And then at the bottom of the clarifier is what we call rakes that pulls all the solids to the center. And then those solids are transported to another facility called Hornsby Bend Biosolids Management Plant. It's closer to the airport. And that does further treatment to a beneficial reuse composting material. To the right there, I just want to point out some of the pumping and valves that we're replacing. At 40 years old, they're time to be replaced. And of course, we need the valves to control where the water goes and when it stops, and we need the pumps to actually move the water. So there's a lot of pumps and valves in a wastewater treatment plant. So we're very excited to have this project underway and at least 60% complete. We're looking forward to the completion of it. It's slated to be completed most likely in the first quarter of year 22. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Thanks to all of our speakers. So now if we do have folks on the line who have questions, we're able to take those questions. And these are the instructions for that. While we're waiting for any questions to come in, I just want to remind folks, if you do have an odor concern, please contact Austin Water as soon as you detect any kind of odor. You can call 512-972-1000. That line is answered 24/7. So any concern with your water or wastewater service, or if you detect an odor, please give us a call. Our folks will ask you a few questions, and that does trigger for staff to be sent out into the field to investigate what might be causing a sewer odor in your neighborhood. And that's the best way for us to be able to identify problems and then to take actions to resolve them. So I want to thank everyone for being here this evening, and I'm going to put up our contact information. Lydia, if you haven't already, will you put in the chat the link to our site where we have a recording of the December meeting, and we will have a recording of the meeting this evening, and our team is here to answer questions and is always available. And we don't have any questions at this time, so I think we can call it for this evening. And thank you all, and we'll see you soon.